All right. We're back. Alternative perspectives. This particular episode or presentation is about um, which political party um, opposes and supports which type of economic agendas. Does the Republican Party favor the rich, as most mainstream media would claim, or is it the Democratic Party who historically has um, supported the rich? I got my guy LV Nation going up first because this is really what inspired, well, partly, I say partially, inspired this presentation here. And he's going to report his spiel on what uh, the Donald Trump administration had just announced. Um, and overall, generally speaking, I'm going to go back in history, cover some things, demonstrating which party supported what and instituted what. And I think that, you guys will find that it's not what the mainstream media is saying. With that being said, before we get into it, please hit the like button. Please subscribe so I can grow the channel, get this content out into the algorithm. Um, all of that is for free. So, help me out, help the community out and spreading this message as well. So, with that being said, I'm going to get into LV Nation right here and I'm going to let him, basically introduce what I'm going to say. Also, I'm going to get into, going to explain, government growth in terms of government expansion, in terms of personnel, how it affects the economy and inflation, and how they use taxes to basically balance off that spending. But as I said, I'm gonna get started with this short clip from LV Nation and go over to his channel as well. Real great content. So let's get into it.
Is this what Donald Trump meant by America's golden age has just begun? I have a video here I have to share with you guys. I don't want to hold you up for too long. Make sure to smash the like button. This is huge news as I'm reading people's comments before this live stream even starts by someone by the name of Mike Angel says, seriously, I work about 8 hours a week. 8 hours of double overtime every other week. 10 hours of a time have so many people are working extremely hard right now, and this news is making a lot of people happy. Is this the golden age?
I work 12 hours a day. I think most people may work 12 hours a day. And I know a lot of people who work 7 days a week. We are working at a ridiculous pace to support, ridiculous agendas around the world that we are basically working to fund. And we're also, the government, well, not the Trump administration, but the government historically has basically put the American people in a position to have to work rigorously to curtail inflation and to basically keep the American economy from imploding. And I'll explain that in more detail as we move forward. But anyway, let my man speak.
Well, let's talk about it real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, I got big breaking news. This video is making and breaking the internet right now of Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutwig literally in an interview on CBS breaks the internet by saying this right here. I'm going to play the 1 minute and 20-second clip right now that could change America forever. Now, we know and we hear about the Doge dividend checks over $5,000, $3,000, $4,000 from Doge, Department of Government Efficiency cuts, right? We're hearing about money being sent back of government waste and waste fraud being sent back to the taxpayers. But ladies and gentlemen, if you make less than $150,000 a year, this is a video for you, because the Secretary of Commerce in the Biden administration just said this live on camera. So I'm going to play this video from the very beginning and watch what he says toward the end. Take a listen.
Is to have external revenue. You know, the way I think about it, we all are so used to paying taxes. We're so used to it. We have like Stockholm syndrome. You know, don't stop the Internal Revenue Service, God forbid. How about this? The rest of the world leans on our economy, breathes off our economy. Not only is our economy $29 trillion GDP, but we consume $20 trillion a year. We are the buyer of everybody's stuff. We buy everybody's stuff. So who's more important, the people who sell stuff or the people who buy stuff? So we are the buyer of everybody's commodities, products, goods and services. Everything comes from us, right? Let them pay a membership fee. We all understand that model.
And this is true capitalism coming from a ideology of true American nationalism, which the mainstream media coming from a white male will frame as white supremacy. For what I've seen, in my opinion, white males, especially coming from the Republican side, which is only coming from the Republican side, when they say these things, they try to conflate it as white nationalism. I'm sorry, white supremacy. They try to inflate it into white supremacy and white nationalism, as if this only impacts or affects only, white people or white males in a positive manner. This gentleman is talking about the United States economy in terms of trade deficit. How could this not affect every ethnic group and every American citizen? But anyway, that's how it's being framed in the media. If you pay attention, if you read between the lines, that's what they're really trying to do. They're trying to frame American nationalism as white supremacy in order to get every other ethnic group outside of basically white Republicans to go against that agenda because, as I'm going to demonstrate, it's been a Democratic Party historically who has been against the the downsizing of or the elimination of taxes against the American people and the growth of the millionaire and billionaire class, where in the political eye they're spewing the complete opposite. But I'm gonna let the facts speak for itself and let every person make a decision and determine that for themselves. But anyway, let's continue.
Let them pay. How about we, you and I, and every single person we know pay less? How about no tax on tips? How about no tax on overtime? How about no Social Security? How about all those things? These are the kind of thoughts that will change America. I know what his goal is. No tax for anybody who makes less than $150,000 a year.
This is what Ivy League universities you can get into with a 3.6 GPA.
90% of students.
That's his goal.
I'm gonna run that back one more
Secretary-
time.
Change America. I know what his goal is. No tax for anybody who makes less than $150,000 a year. That's his.
That's the goal. That's what he's saying is the goal for the Trump administration. So, non-supporters of the Trump administration will say that they're just, fleecing the flock. They're not, they are not being sincere about pursuing no tax on the working class citizens of America, that they're just, just doing it for political gain. But the fact of the matter is most of what Mr. Lutnick said here has been presented officially to Congress. They haven't presented any legislation to Congress to vote on in terms of no tax for those making 150 or less. But definitely, what's in the Trump administration tax package is definitely no tax on Social Security. No tax on overtime and no tax on tips. that is absolutely factual. That's been presented. That's in the huge tax tax cut proposal that the Trump administration has presented to Congress. And what they're still pondering on now, that the Trump administration says that should be voted in by the beginning of April. So we'll see if that gets done, and we'll see if the Democratic side of the fence can, agree to those tax cuts. But anyway, that's the first part of the presentation. Like I said, go over to LV Nation, check his station and channel out. Very great content. But also, what I wanted to demonstrate is historically who's been who, basically. And I'm going to start with the statistics coming from Forbes on how, millionaires and billionaires supported both candidates leading up to the 2024 election. So let me put that on the screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this is coming from Forbes. The headline is Kamala Harris has more billionaires prominently backing her than Trump. Bezos and Griffin weigh in. Let me see if I can find something substantial to read real quick, just to give you guys a little bit of a backdrop of what they're saying. Forbes found at least 100 billionaires in the corners of either former President Donald Trump or Vice President Kamala Harris, with many more backing Harris. But unlike the world's richest man, Elon Musk, who stamps extensively on Trump's behalf, many have elected to watch from the sidelines, like Warren Buffett and Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know about that though. I could have swore that Mark Zuckerberg did participate in a prior election, but maybe not, because yeah, I want to say he did. Anyway, I don't trust mainstream media anyway, but I'm just showing this for those who do. But anyway, let's read on. Our breakdown records 83 billionaires supporting Harris and 52 backing Trump so far. Many more billionaires may still financially back a candidate, but their donations won't be learned until after the election, when final Federal Election Commission reports issued in December. Billionaires leaning toward Harris may seem incongruous. I don't even know what that means. I have to look that up. Since she often criticizes Trump for advocating for policies favorable toward billionaires. But there are practical reasons why the ultra wealthy may favor Harris. Okay, let's get into that. What are the practical reasons here? Let's see what Forbes has to say. Let's see what they got to say about it. A letter signed by more than a dozen billionaires last month endorsing Harris let me get back to that. A letter signed by more than a dozen billionaires last month endorsing Harris explained their belief Harris will continue to advance fair and predictable policies that support the rule of law, stability, and sound business environment, indicating the support for the status quo as the U.S. economy and stock market exhibit strength, while recent survey of millionaire investors, which found 57% to 43% split in Harris's favor, identified technology, healthcare, and sustainability stocks as the sectors most poised to benefit from Harris win. a mix friendly to many of her billionaire backers from Silicon Valley who grew familiar with Harris during the time as a California prosecutor. Okay, so excuse me 1 second. Okay, so this is my theory on why billionaires and millionaires, and this is not just my theory. I've heard others amongst the truth community, the anti-resistance basically against the mainstream media, which I'm proud to be a part of. But basically, if some have speculated, I don't even think it's speculation anymore. A Trump administration brings is going to bring in the short term great instability to the stock market because of the tariff um, ideology that comes with a Trump administration, um, which means that Donald Trump will basically use tariffs as a leverage to force companies to come and basically, what's the word, invest in American infrastructure instead of just keeping the American people as only consumers. Tariffs, as we've seen in recent history, even the mainstream media has reported that companies like Honda and Apple have made significant moves, and and they have pledged to make major investments into the American infrastructure instead of just basically keeping the American people at bay as just consumers. This all goes into the Donald Trump ideology in terms of tariffs. This is totally, um, if you look at it and if you understand it, this is anti millionaire and billionaire progressiveness, because this creates much instability for anything outside of the United States um, on the stock market and in other facets as well, especially in the short term. But in the long term, it creates stability for the American economy because these companies have pledged to come into the American economy, build manufacturing plants, and of course, they're going to hire American workers, employees, to work their manufacturing factories. Now, whether or not each individual in the United States gets hired by these manufacturing companies besides the point and highly unrealistic. But the point that the Trump administration is trying to put their stamp on is that there has to be a return of some type of economic base within the United States, because that's when the United States was at its apex in terms of economy, when the industry was within the United States and they were more on the exporting side than the importing side. We had textile industries, we had steel industries, we had car manufacturing industries. This is what made the American economy strong. Now the American economy is only known for consuming. And as you saw from the prior clip from the Secretary of Commerce, he wants to return the, Americans, or actually in that clip, he was just stating that he wants um, basically importers to pay a membership fee and basically pay to participate in the largest consumer market in the world and the strongest consumer market in the world. And I think that's more than fair, you know? So, yes, Donald Trump's tariffs will rock the market in the short term, but theoretically, in the long term, it should return stability back to the United States. And see, it seems as if, I'm not even going to say that. I was going to say it seems as if billionaires and millionaires are against that, which they probably are. But the point is that in the short term, Donald Trump's administration does not support the pockets of billionaires and millionaires because their pockets are going to be somewhat hurt in the short term by his tariff agenda. So, with that being said, I want to get into something else historical. So, let's see here. Oh, before I get into that, I also want to state that in prior elections, going back all the way to 2016, in 2016 and 2020, more billionaires and millionaires voted for, and I think it was a pretty substantial rate or difference that they voted for the Democratic Party. So when you take a step back and you look at it in terms of what's been going on with these audits and all the scams that's been ran through the different bureaucracies like the Social Security Administration, USAID, and so forth and so on, and you see who doesn't want these audits, the Democratic Party are not in favor. The Democratic Party is not in favor of these audits. And what I'm saying is when you draw the lines and you put two and two together and you connect the dots, you'll see a pattern here amongst the Democratic Party, even dating all the way back to 1913, which I'm going to demonstrate here because Woodrow Wilson was a Democratic president who instituted, for the first time in a long time, income tax. So let me bring that up. Okay, so it was officially called the Revenue Act of 1913. Keep in mind as well, in 1913, Woodrow Wilson also instituted the Federal Reserve Act, basically making turning the United States economy into putting them on a worldwide or a third party controlled income system or money system, I should say. That all happened in 1913 under Woodrow Wilson. But let me read this. The Revenue Act of 1913, also known as the Tariff Act of 1913, Underwood Tariff, or the Underwood-Simmons Act, reestablished a federal income tax in the United States and substantially lowered tariff rates. So basically, they destabilized tariffs as a way for basically financing the United States, lowered that, and instituted the income tax under Woodrow Wilson. So historically here, the Democrats did the reverse. And it seems like in the long run, this is why we're in the economic state that we're in. This marked the turning point of tariffs basically paying for and financing the American people into the American people financing the government through income tax. So let me see if there's anything else I wanted to demonstrate here. Okay, I think that's everything that I wanted to share on the screen here. But in general, I want to get into now how big government spending or government expansion has been increasing over the years. Now you've seen, Democratic presidents of old speak of and downsize government. such as Barack Obama mentioned it. I don't know how successful he was at downsizing it because, to be honest, I wasn't really paying attention to that aspect of his administration at that time. But Bill Clinton, after reading historically what he did, Bill Clinton definitely made major downsizing of American government. So here we are today with the Trump administration. It's been a lot of debate as to what he's doing in terms of downsizing the federal government. Mainstream media is framing it as if it's something that's not been done before. Is it ethically or legally or constitutionally wrong or right? In my opinion, since it's something that's been done before, it's definitely constitutional. The Constitution definitely supports every aspect of what Donald Trump or Trump administration is doing. And at this point, I want to get into how government expansion has impacted the American economy. And when you take a step back and you look at it, you'll see that the American government in its current state has has flip flopped it onto the American people, and it is American people who are basically holding up the American government off the labor of their backs, and I'll explain in detail. All right, so we already have here demonstrated the Revenue Act of 1913, which was instituted by a Democratic president, Woodrow Wilson. All right, so over time, the American government has expanded bureaucracies and expanded government overall. So, just in basic principle, um, you have to ask yourself the question of how is this being financed? I think the American people have to ask themselves that simple question. Let's just keep it simple. And the answer to that question is it has to be financed by taxpaying dollars. That's how it's financed. And if it's not financed by that, then the American government will go and borrow from the Federal Reserve, um, and the Federal Reserve will print them more money into circulation. Once that money is printed into circulation, it does two things. It comes with an interest rate, and it's going to inflate the dollar because there will be more money in circulation. There's more money in circulation, the dollar decreases in value. And so we've seen the major announcements by Doge and what they're finding, and it's adding up substantially. And in my opinion, it's demonstrating that the current inflationary things that the American people are experiencing is due primarily to government expansion. And so, as government expands, again, they have to spend money to expand. Um, they'll curtail that from two sources. They'll get it first from taxpayers, um, and then they'll get it by borrowing. And so, when they borrow, of course, again, as I just said, it's going to add to inflation. Um, and so, to curtail inflation, the American government is going to try to curtail it through income tax and through bureaucracies who collect fees, like a DMV, so forth and so on. And so they'll collect these fees to try to basically manage the American economy and basically keep it from imploding through taxes and fees. And so this is what I mean by the American people having to struggle, work 12 hours a day at minimum, work 7 days a week. We are literally struggling and fighting to keep the American economy afloat for the disasters that our government officials have implemented through policies. And so the mainstream media is trying to frame the Trump administration of trying to right this ship as something that's so radical and against the American people, when the reality is the total opposite. And so you're seeing which party is supporting what. The Democratic Party is supporting the same. They want big government. They don't want any downsizing because, in their criticism of Donald Trump's downsizing, none of them have mentioned any type of alternative. No alternative policies or anything like that. How would, no mention of how they would go about downsizing government, which is an absolute must, because this is where inflation primarily is coming from. Okay, so the American government inflates, and the American public or the American citizens pay for it through income tax, which is unconstitutional based on the Constitution. I don't have that fact prepared right now, but I'll do my due diligence to dig that up and prove that point since I stated it. But as far as what I know right now, I'm going to say that the income tax was originally unconstitutional, and it was only supposed to be temperamental, and it was only supposed to be for the rich originally. And as time went on, they expanded income tax into the working class citizens. And so now the working class citizens again are paying for the mistakes of the policies made by big government expansion. And so what it also what also has been going on in terms of what we've seen from Doge and their findings was the first big controversial finding, I believe, was USAID. And so in that you saw the siphoning of taxpayer money, and how money is being earmarked and sent around the world for expanding agendas. And so in this case, we're not even talking about our government spending money on things that pertain to America. We're talking about money being curtailed from hardworking American citizens and being spent around the world for globalist agendas. And it seems as though the Democratic Party is the only party that is opposed to this. And so, we've seen all of these opposers with photos with the George Soros family. George Soros seems to be at the end of all of this siphoning. And you just have to put two and two together. I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious of what's going on. The Democrats will get in media and they'll, make emotional speeches. They'll twist the facts, anything to keep that money flow, siphoning into the foundations owned and operated by their globalist elite friends like a George Soros. Why else would all of these opposers already be seen taking photos with the, complete George Soros family, buddy with them? And then you find out that a lot of these foundations that, this money, the taxpayer money has been back siphoned to is, George Soros foundations. And George Soros is just not doing it here within the United States. He's doing it globally. This is a trend throughout all major industrialized countries over and over again. And it seems like the American people are footing most of the bill around the world. He's using this money to he's using American taxpayer dollars to basically have political influence in countries outside of the United States. This is a major scheme. And so this is the reason I believe that you're seeing the support from billionaires and millionaires to the Democratic Party, because this is the party who has set up this globalist money laundering scheme. And I think it's pretty clear. So anyway, back to the point. So we are at the point that we are because, again, of government expansion, um, and also, you know, I spoke of tariffs earlier in the presentation. I touched on that. The trade deficit is I would say the second contributor to inflation as well. And you've seen the Donald Trump administration trying to rein that in um, through tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, and try to basically curtail the trade deficit. And again, the Democratic Party is against that as well. We absolutely do have a trade deficit, and it's contributing directly to inflation. So when you sit back and look at it, and you visit the facts, it's like who in their right mind would be against these things? All of this will contribute to deflating the American dollar instead of inflating the American dollar. A consumer based economy will continue to borrow and spend, and this will continue to inflate the dollar. I think it's fairly simple, and I think it's very clear which party supports what. So, with that being said, I think I got all the major points out there. I think I'm gonna wrap it up. I've covered, uh, government expansion, how the American people pay for it, and we've seen the Trump administration come out and point out the fraud and these different that's going on in these different bureaucracies that the taxpayer money is paying for. And we've seen the Democratic Party come out and say that the Trump administration is lying about this fraud, and what he really wants to do is take personal benefits away from the American people, which is an absolute lie. Again, the Democratic Party is gaslighting to protect their interests of, in the globalist elites, who they truly support. Donald Trump is hurting the pockets of millionaires and billionaires. We see it with the stock market right now. So we're seeing a contradictory from the mainstream media in that they're reporting that Donald Trump is in favor of the rich, but at the same time they're reporting that he's hurting the stock market, which the rich benefit from. So which one is it? So I think that's it. Big government expansion has caused major inflation. They tax the people they tax the American people to balance it off, because income tax lowers inflation, and so they're making people work harder to pay for and fund their globalist operation, and that's pretty much it. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So that's it. Alternative perspectives. That's a wrap. I'm out.